All right, amazing students. Today we're going to be going over the standard deviation worksheet, going over the important stuff, which we know will be on our test. So first of all, standard deviation, what does it mean? Today we're going to learn about standard deviation, an important statistics word and tool. First, let's review what we already know about mean, median, mode, and range. Okay, what do you remember about the word mean? Mean doesn't mean you're so mean. It means, mean means, it's kind of strange to say that, right? It's basically the average. It's the average number in a data set. So the average of a set of numbers would be the mean. For example, what's the average of 7 and 12? If you add them together and divide by 2, you'll get the average. But if you have three numbers, for example, 7, 12, and 19, what's the average of those numbers? You'll add them up and divide by 3. Very good. So it's basically the average of a set of numbers, and we typically use our graphing calculators to figure that out, and it's going to be X bar. X bar. Okay, next up is median. Median is the middle. The middle. It's the middle number when a list is written in order. So I'll put the middle number of a list that's in order, from least to greatest. Okay, and sometimes you're going to get the middle number that's a decimal, and sometimes it's going to be a whole number. So we're just going to leave it like that for the definition. Okay, next up is going to be mode. Mode, most showed. So I like to remind myself, what is the mode? The mode is the most showed number on a list. I think one thing that's important to note for the most showed number, for example, if I gave you 1, 1, 2, 3, 7, 7, 7, what is the most showed number? Yeah, the most showed number is 7. That's your mode, right? But what if I took away that number 7? Ooh, what if I took away this number 7? Then the mode actually is 2 numbers, 1 and 7. So the most showed number can actually be 2 different numbers. And we'll just say the mode is 1 and 7 in this situation. Okay? Next up is the range. The range is how wide your data set is. So we'll just write the formal definition. It's the difference, write this down, between the largest and smallest numbers in a list of numbers. Very good. So we're going to go over an example of what that might look like very soon, but the range is basically how far the data is. So for example, if I said, how far away is 2 from 18? Well, you can pretty easily figure that out. But we're going to go ahead and do a couple of other things first. So it says, here's our first example. And you're going to go ahead and try to do number 11 through, I think, number 12 and on, you're going to do on your own. But right now, we're going to go ahead and do number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 together. Okay. So our first example is, make sure to get your graphing calculators ready. If you have it, that's great. Okay, so our first list of numbers, it says to find the mean, median, mode, and range. So the first thing I have to do, what's the first thing I got to do when I'm dealing with a graphing calculator, right? There's an important button on my graphing calculator. Which button is it? I'll zoom in so much to this that you're going to be like, oh, I think I know which button it is. Yeah, the button we're talking about is the stat button. So when you press that stat button, this list shows up. I want you to press enter, and I want you to enter those numbers. If you already have a list of numbers in there, you can clear the list. There's actually many ways to clear the list. You can press delete to delete the numbers one at a time. You can go up and press clear, then enter, or you can even go here, stat, clear list, stat option 4, and type L1. L1 is in blue right there. So if I type second 1, enter, it will be cleared. You see how it says done? It's because our list is now cleared. So that's another way. That's another way to clear our list. If you did not know that, that's just another way that a lot of statisticians use when they're dealing with these lists. So we're going to go ahead and type these numbers into list 1. L1 means list 1. So we're going to do this pretty quickly. I know that you've already started, a lot of you, so let's go ahead and do this. 2, enter. 3, enter. Now it's important to make sure you type all the numbers, even if they repeat twice or 3 times or more. And it's important to not forget any numbers. So when I do this, I'm going to go back and check that I typed it correctly. So 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 11, 13, 15, 17, 18. I typed it correctly. Now all I have to do now is press stat. All right, everybody following along? Press stat, go to calc, and a lot of you memorized this already, right? The first option is what gives you all the statistics information I need. So again, stat, calc, option 1. Press enter until this list shows up. All right, so the first number that shows up in my list is 10. That is my average. X bar is my mean. So you can say X bar is 10. Now, these other numbers are important for statisticians. We look at the second number, that's when we add them all up. That's called the sum. So this number right there, or that Greek letter right there, that's the sum. The third number we don't got to worry about too much. The fourth number, not too much. The fifth number right there, that's actually an important number for today. It's called standard deviation. But let's continue to scroll down. If you scroll down, you're going to get your 5 number. What's it called? Yeah, scroll down, you're going to get your 5 number summary. And in that 5 number summary is the median. So the median is 10.5. The mode, we don't know yet because it doesn't show up on your graphing calculator. You got to look at your list. Okay, so what number shows up the most? Let's see. I know 11 shows up twice. Does any other number show up twice or more? Check. Nope. So the mode is 11. Remember, mode is your most showed number. Okay, finally the range. The range is going to be the maximum X value minus the minimum X value. So if we look at the max, we have 18. The minimum is 2. Or just look at our list. 18 minus 2. Our maximum minus the minimum. Remember, the range is just how far apart is our data. How far are the numbers 2 and 18? How far apart are they? Well, 18 minus 2 is 16, and you're done. That's your range. Okay? So that's an important thing for statistics. All right, we're going to move on to something that's very, very, very important. While these values do tell us a lot about the list, it does not tell us much about how far apart the numbers are from each other. To do this, we need to calculate what is called the standard deviation. So, standard deviation, write this down please. Standard deviation, I'm going to use the symbol. That symbol. Can you guess what Greek letter that's called? Yeah, these are actually Greek letters. It's not alpha, it's not beta, it's not delta, it's not pi, it's none of those. It's actually sigma. Yeah, it's called sigma. So this Greek letter is the letter they chose for standard deviation. Standard deviation means, write this down, the average distance of all the numbers okay, write this down. Standard deviation, the average distance of all the numbers in a list away from the, and here's the most important word, mean. Now, this is why it gets a little confusing. Standard deviation is kind of confusing, but what does mean mean? Mean is the average. So standard deviation is the average away from the average. It's kind of complicated, but essentially sigma, or a standard deviation, is going to be a number that's very important for statisticians because it tells you how far apart our data is. It tells us what? It tells us how far apart our data is, okay? So you can go ahead and read with me this next part. We already did this next part, but we're going to go ahead and read it so we understand that these steps, you can memorize them pretty quickly. It says, to calculate the standard deviation, we need to use our stat button, okay, on our calculator and enter the list. So again, let's repeat the steps we did. We pressed stat, and we had to enter the list into our calculator. That's good. Next, we press the stat button again, okay, and go to the calc tab and choose one var stats. That's one variable stats, and press enter. So again, we pressed stat, we went to calc, and pressed enter where it says one var stats, and this list shows up. It says you will see a lot of numbers here. It's a chart to help you understand what some of the numbers mean. Once you understand the list, find the value of each term. So this chart is what we're actually talking about. So x bar is the mean. Remember, our mean was, in this situation, it was 10. That was the average. 10. X bar. X bar. I'll write it really big so we can see it. X bar is the first number that shows up in our list. Very good. Okay, next up is standard deviation. Standard deviation of x. If you look at this list, the fifth number in our list, what's the name of that Greek letter again? Yeah, sigma. That sigma x is our standard deviation. So standard deviation in this situation is 5. All right, I'll go ahead and use some highlighting and color coding. So that is our standard deviation. Now the median, of course, we already figured this out. The median, if you scroll down, it gives you the median of 10.5. And the range we know is going to be the maximum minus the minimum, which was 16. So we got that from doing 18 minus 2, which was 16. If you're like, Mr. Maynard, I'm lost, we did that up here. We did that up here. Okay? But now the most important question, and you're going to have to do this for number 12 and on, is what does standard deviation mean in this case? So let's write this down. What does standard deviation mean in this situation? Remember, standard deviation is the average distance from the mean. So we're going to put this in words here for number 11. That the numbers on average, comma, are 10. Oh, I messed this up. The numbers on average are 5. My apologies. The numbers on average are 5 away from the mean. So what is the mean? The mean is 10. So the numbers on average are 5 away from 10. The numbers in our list on average are 5 away from 10. And in parentheses, we can put 10 is our mean. Now you can put this in any way you want as long as it makes sense for what standard deviation means. So the numbers on average are 5 away from our mean of 10. All right, so now your task is to complete number 12 and number 13 and number 14 all the way till number 16, and I want you to make sure to check your work, okay? So make sure you're checking your work with the next page, which is going to be your answer key. So if you have any questions during this time, please raise your hand and begin to complete number 12 all the way to 16. Go ahead.